This is Propulsion, the podcast where we dive deep into the nitty-gritty of taking your business and your practice to the next level. Whether you are an entrepreneur, a franchisee, or a financial planning pro, you are in the right place. We're talking the latest tech, best practices, and expert insights, all while keeping it real and entertaining. So grab a coffee, sit back, and let's get ready to blast off. I'm your host, Francois de Toy. Guy and Zeyn, warm welcome to the show.
Hey, morning, how's it?
Thank you, Francois.
Absolutely fantastic. Thank you very much, Guy. So, Guy, I'm just going to quickly start off with you. Maybe just a very brief introduction from you. You're both from Fairbairn Consult, but your role, Guy, just for those people that are here that don't know who you are.
So I guess if I was a bit younger, I'd refer to myself as the founder of Fairbairn Consult. Not that founders is a new concept, but it seems to be a sort of trendy thing to call yourself. I'm the CEO. I'm ultimately responsible for running the business. It was kind of my idea around creating it, building a business that really will help advisors thrive in a Kofi environment where it's just going to become a hell of a lot more onerous to own a license.
Thank you very much. Zeyn, and then you've been with Fairbairn Consult just over a year or so. Tell us a little bit more about what you do.
Just a year this month. November has been a year.
Awesome.
So yeah, I joined Fairbairn Consult. Guy and I worked together before in one of the larger product provider houses. And we kind of circled back to each other. And I'm glad I'm here. I liked the value proposition and where Fairbairn Consult is going. That kind of appealed to me. So I'm glad I'm here. And I'm currently the commercial manager for Fairbairn Consult.
Okay, fantastic. Warm welcome, Zeyn. Guy, I'm going to start off with you. On Friday, it's Friday today. On Tuesday, you actually delivered a talk at Ascend about the fact that client experience is the new marketing, and that was quite an insightful one. It's one that you've also done at Humans Under Management in a similar way. So there's a lot of valuable insights that came from that. But I mean, where did this idea come from to focus more on client experience?
So I guess it's like a long time coming. I suppose imagine a few people would have read Steve Jobs's book 10, 15 years ago, whenever that came out. And there was like a bit in there where they they talked about his obsession over customer experience in Apple's world, right? Of things like the emphasis of the design around their products, around, if you recall the story in there, but where they literally redesigned the first Apple store the day before the launch because he was unhappy with the way people would experience it, right? It was something that in his view was just like utterly critical. And I mean, Apple's now, a pokey multi-trillion-dollar company. I mean, it's enormous. Similarly, I've read similar stuff around Jeff Bezos as well with Amazon, right? So these are huge behemoth businesses. But the one thing that seems to be common with them is this genuine obsession around customer experience, right? So I guess it was that. Then I heard a story, and the story went that a practice manager, so come back to our world, went to go and see an advisor, and the guy was quite sort of smug about the thing and sort of said to her, well, so what are you going to tell me about my business that I don't already know? And her opening comment was, well, your coffee's shit. And it was like, it was just an absolute aha moment of, the first thing people experience when they come here is bad coffee, right? That you haven't even got close to giving any financial advice or anything at all, right? And that's a pretty awful experience. I mean, I'm a bit of a coffee snob, and the thought of going to someone, their office, and they're going to serve bad coffee again is a fairly terrifying thought, right? So, it kind of got me sort of thinking around that. And then I guess I just reflected on my own personal experience. And on Tuesday I told the story, but I told it at Humans Under Management. I told it at 4 different conferences around my experience of buying a chef's knife and a sharpener for that knife. And this was 20 years ago. And very briefly, the store assistant talked me out of buying an expensive sharpener that if you didn't know what you were doing with it, you'd muck up the knife. And they talked me into buying a much cheaper one that I couldn't bugger the knife up with. And as a result of that, I've become a real advocate for that store. And I think therein is the key to the whole thing, right? No one No one asked me to give referrals. No one asked me to talk about the store. The fact that I had a really good experience in it, the fact that, because of that, I became an advocate. And I've literally told thousands of people now about that great experience. I've got no connection to that store at all. And so I think therein is the sort of maybe the aha moment for me, was just seeing that when you get client experience right, there's something in our DNA, there's something about us as people where we tell others about it, right? And as I've said in the talk, the converse is of course true as well, right? When you have a really crappy experience, you'll tell people about it as well. So yeah, I think it's really powerful. I mean, listen to Razan's stuff. It's not this polished marketing pitch type thing. It's a sincere endorsement from a friend or colleague or whatever, from someone who has a real human being. And I think that counts a lot for people today in every aspect of your life.
And Guy, I mean, I think again, it's a word that I've been saying a lot the last while, and that is that you have to be intentional, meaning that there needs to be a plan. You need to take action, right? And everything needs to be aligned. And one of the things that I think of people are finding hard at the moment is that, because some people had a fantastic in-person experience on the one hand, on the other hand, they now live in this hybrid virtual world where we haven't spent 1 minute thinking about how do I transfer, or how does this translate into an online experience. And basically, like you say, I think the equivalent of bad coffee is now a bad Zoom meeting, bad quality sound, bad quality video, those kinds of things. So although you want authentic, and although you want those kinds of things, the production quality of these things are still very, very important, but because that plays into that. So with that, just as a preamble, sorry, like I said, I was not gonna do that, but sometimes I can't help myself. I forgot to add some stuff. But why is it so important from your point of view that advisors specifically consider all of these things in terms of client experience when it comes to their clients?
So just think about yourself in any aspect of your life, right? When you're engaging any business, any professional, you're going to a store, whatever, right? Would you choose, if you're going to, let's make it digital, right? So you're going into an online store to go and buy something and you can't find the product you want, right? You got to, the search functionality is terrible. That's a rubbish experience. It's hard work, right? You don't want it to be hard work. You want it to be easy. You want to be able to get to the thing that you're trying to get to with no pain at all. I mean, the whole thing with digital world and hybrid working now is it's about convenience, right? That you don't have to get in your car or get on a plane. I think how many times I've got on planes before. I mean, flipping hell, you're not going to do that every time. I mean, advisors today, there are certain meetings that you absolutely should be doing in person, but not everyone, right? And the efficiency you can get and the number of times that you can connect with a client in a year is so much higher if you're using a hybrid environment, right? I mean, I just think about myself with my financial planner. I mean, generally it's a midweek during the day engagement. My wife and I both dial in digitally. None of us get in the car and drive to the advisor's office. He doesn't it's quick and easy. I mean, if there was something significant we were going to change, then absolutely we would go and do that. But if it's just a review, everything's kind of everything the same. Yep, cool, all good, carry on, right? And I think that's so make it easy, make it convenient for people. I think that's the most important thing.
Also, just maybe just like one last thing on client experience before I go to Zeyn, and we can start talking about a little bit about advisor experience, is that when advisors start thinking about client experience, like how should they think? How should they approach it? Like how should they think about it?
Okay, so the way I think about it and the way I spoke about it on Tuesday is that client experience and it doesn't matter what you do, it doesn't matter what your business is, it's anchored in the core of what you do, right? So the analogy that I've used there was to talk about a restaurant. So a restaurant, the core is making food, right? And if your food's rubbish, there's nothing else you can do about it, right? As a financial advisor, your core is giving advice to clients, right? And implementing the most appropriate solutions for that particular client. And so no amount of good coffee can possibly ever compensate for crap advice, right? So that's key. So so technically you've got to know what you're doing. You've got to be up to date around the different solutions as to what is out there, what you should be using or not. So that's absolutely front and center of what you're doing. Right? Once you've thought about the actual advice you're delivering, once you've thought about the way in which you're delivering it. On Tuesday, again, I spoke about the UK Personal Finance Society's power planning. Google it. It's really, really excellent in terms of the outcomes that you're trying to drive with clients in terms of just really relating themselves to their own financial position and their plan and what have you. So once you've got the core done, right? So the actual advice and the way that it's being delivered, then it's all the peripheral stuff, right? Then it's, do you serve nice coffee? It's, do you send out newsletters? Is it easy to read? Is it easy to follow? All of that good stuff. Are your staff friendly, engaging, and all that kind of stuff? And then I think the one bit that's really hard, it's pretty hard, is that it's managing and understanding the client expectations. So are you doing the things your clients expect you to do? And a simple example is, you may not send out a quarterly newsletter or whatever, but your clients expect you to do so. Their friends are getting one from their advisors, and they go, well, it's really cool and interesting. They send us something topical. And so the way you've got to deal with that is you have to ask people, what do you want? And it's I think important there is, yes, you can have a fabulous introductory process of taking on clients, and at Humans Under Management, they spoke about this quite a bit. And I think that, it's really important. And so you might genuinely understand from day one what your client is looking for. And either you do or don't deliver those things, right? You might choose not to, right? You say, I'm not going to do that stuff because that's not what I do. And you manage the expectation. But your clients also change. Your clients also have conversations with their friends over time, and what they wanted 10 years ago may not be what they want today. And again, so you've got to ask, you've got to keep asking, because we all change, we all develop as time goes along. So yeah, I think that's the thing. Start with the core, the thing that, like, what it is you do, which in our world is you giving advice to clients, right? And you're implementing solutions that will help them achieve all those goals. Then look at the peripheral stuff that you offer. What does that look like? Is it a lacquer experience or not? And you just got to look at it from their perspective, right? That my opening comment about the bad coffee. Just think about what happens if I was to walk in here, what would it be like? And then the last piece is understanding what are those expectations of your clients that you're not doing, and how could you do that?
Brilliant stuff. But now Zeyn, I'm going to come to you now, guys. So one thing that I'm now sitting here thinking about is that I think the moment we talk about client experience, we immediately think about the end client. But you, as Guy Holwill, the CEO of Fairbairn Consult, have a very different client.
Yeah, so they do. I mean, okay, so I suppose I've read a bit. So Richard Branson had a comment once about the businesses that say they are client-centric is just nonsense. As a business, look after your staff and let your staff look after the clients. And I fundamentally believe in that, right? So as a brokerage, as an FSP, we have a whole bunch of phased responsibilities to clients, and I understand that. I get it, right? I understand that. I don't duck any of those responsibilities whatsoever. But I don't know those clients. I don't know those people, right? I don't know the hopes and fears and dreams and goals and all that stuff. Our advisors do. Our advisors have had those really deep personal conversations with people. I can see client, whoever, product holding, I can go and I can read a record of advice. That's not a person. That's a phased document, right? And so our whole thing is, right, what are we doing to look, my clients, Zeyn's clients, are our advisors. I mean, absolutely, and so we think really hard about that. How do we do that? And, as a business, we don't have any of our own products. We haven't got our own funds or anything like that. And so our only way to be successful, to make any money whatsoever, is by advisors being successful. So we've got like a massive vested interest in that. The more successful the people are, the more successful we are. And literally everything kind of flows, from that point.
Brilliant. Zeyn, I want to bring you in here. Can you maybe share some examples of what you have done from an advisor experience point of view, in order to really create these things that Guy is talking about, and to ensure that, that success that's so critical, obviously for the business and for the advisor and for the client, is sort of realized through this.
There are a few things, but I think it all starts with our mindset, right? And we've adopted the phrase treating advisors fairly. This is the cornerstone of what we've built and will continue to build in Fairbairn Consult. We've also created a values cloud in consultation with our advisor group that guides us in terms of the feeling that we're trying to create for advisors. And I use the word feeling quite a lot because oftentimes people won't remember what you say, but they'll never forget how you make them feel. So this helps us define the feeling that we are trying to create for our advisors, their staff, the head office staff, and ultimately the end client, because that would definitely filter down. So we want to shift from I want that feeling to I get that feeling. So from a head office perspective, we ask ourselves continuously, are we creating this feeling for our advisors? And that's the standard that we hold ourselves to. So we treat all of our advisors and product providers with the respect that we expect to be shown, and transparency in our contracts and fee structure. You'll hear the word transparency being used a lot. It's also quite bold in our values cloud. Our contracts, we believe, need to be simple and easy to understand, with no hidden terms and conditions, no restraints of trades. So let me just say that again, because often when I sit down with new advisors that potentially want to join us and I talk about things like no restraints of trades, they sometimes don't believe me. So I'll say loud and proud, we have no restraint of trades. Fairbairn Consult has built a business on advisors and it's an entrepreneurial driven model. We are not in the business of acquiring clients. Those are your clients. So we don't want to be sneaky and sneak that into our contracts. We don't have any restraint of trades. We help advisors that want to join us, and a lot of these advisors that come to us and have these initial conversations with us don't even know that they've signed a restraint of trade as part of the onboarding pack. And we're trying to get them to help them unpack this and understand it. So we push hard to get people up and running is another thing that we do, because we know our advisors can't earn until they get codes and etc. from product providers. So not earning is not a great experience. So we've geared our back office, our head office staff to be slick, in that we get these codes, get them settled as fast as we can. We've implemented new systems to get clients loaded onto our CRM system fairly quickly. We help create these clients for them so that they can get on with the business of actually giving advice.
Awesome. Obviously, there's some key ingredients when it comes to an advisor. Just like there is with a normal client experience, like to the end clients, there are certain things that you want to make sure is there. But what are some of the key ingredients that you have? And there's a particular reason why I asked this question is because, like, I want the audience that's listening and watching us this morning is to also think about, like, what are you doing from this in your own business's perspective, or maybe the business that you're in, what is happening from that perspective? There's obviously many reasons why we asked this, but from a Fairbairn Consult point of view, what were some of the key ingredients for you when you put together this advisor experience?
Yeah, that's another good question, Francois. So there are a few things, and I'll start off with again, transparent fee structure. So we have experienced that there are FSPs out there that have different fee structures for some of their advisors. We don't want to go down that route. Our fee structure is exactly the same for all of our advisors. We don't have 90% of our advisors cross-subsidizing the rest. That's one. Second thing would be equal access to resources. And this is something that we're very, very deliberate about. We don't have rather fat layers of regional management. We don't believe in that. We want to keep our business sleek and operational. So we want our advisors to be able to pick up the phone and call a Guy Holwill, the CEO of the business. Pick up the phone and call a Dirk Jansen van Rensburg, who's our COO. Pick up the phone and talk to me. We want direct access, so equal access to resources for all of our advisors. We have 4 fair performance metrics, and I'll get to that a little bit later in terms of how we measure performance in our business. We have a collaborative work structure. So we've got WhatsApp groups set up for risk, short-term, medical aid. We have an advice council, which is voluntary, that has a mixed blend of of different advisors with different experience levels that can assist our advisors in answering complex questions. If advisors bring new ideas to us, we're very open for that. We have a few different franchise setups in our business, so we encourage entrepreneurship. And by doing this, we're actually encouraging a client-centric model eventually for our advisors. We have a diverse and inclusive culture, so we've got all ages, races, and experience levels. And we provide regulatory and compliance support, so we take away the headache and pain of you worrying about all these things together with our mastered colleagues. We provide all regulatory and compliance support. Work-life balance, how do we help there? That's quite critical for us. So we're constantly exploring ways to incorporate AI into our advice process for our advisors. This will allow advisors the opportunity to save time and focus on what they're actually good at, which is advising their clients. And by focusing on these ingredients, we believe that we create an environment that values and supports financial advisors, and and this ultimately benefits the clients. The powerful role that a financial advisor plays in the life of their clients cannot be overstated. And our respect for that role is paramount to our success now and into the future. And as Guy said, we fundamentally understand that there are legal requirements to clients. And as Guy alluded to earlier, the reality of it is Zeyn, Guy, and Dirk, and John, we don't know these clients personally. We don't know if somebody's going through a divorce or somebody's about to give birth to a child. So it becomes important that we make the advisors' lives as easier as possible and help them think about their customer experience differently and ultimately benefiting the end client.
Brilliant stuff. I mean, obviously, and Zeyn mentioned this earlier, that respect is one of the big things. And I mean, if I think about you in a profession, that's where we're already there. I don't think we're still headed to a profession. I think there's a large part of the industry that's already professionalized. Sure, there's some laggards that will get there someday, but ultimately we're all very professional. We care deeply about clients. We're really interested and all of that. So I mean, I get the sense that respect is something that is something that we all practice and we all do. And I wonder, just maybe, Guy, if that is that the experience though? There's an expectation that we respect each other. There's an expectation that ultimately, I remember fondly when I was at another company where one of the consultants that was in my branch came to me and said, "Look, I have to tell you, I'm going for an interview somewhere else." I said, "Well, that's perfectly fine. I will never ever stand in the way of somebody who needs another opportunity, or who wants another opportunity, or wants to build a life in a different way. Why would I ever do that?" kind of thing. But then you experience other things very differently yourself in other places. So I mean, from that point of view, is respect really something that's experienced across the profession and the industry, Guy?
So you'd think so, right? And Francois, you'd think so. I don't know how people imagine they can run a business by treating their staff badly, right? I don't know how they think that business is ever going to thrive. I can't join those dots. But it happens. I mean, I met with an advisor yesterday evening, and I mean, he's being treated extremely poorly, leaving an IFA firm. I'll give you some examples, and these are real examples. This is not hypothetical. This really has happened. Because, I mean, the hypothetical ones, I've heard stories, but I've never seen it, where they write a letter to the client about the advisor and allude to a drinking and gambling problem and all that kind of stuff. I've never seen that. I've heard of that, but maybe it doesn't happen. But so we really did have an advisor who joined us from a large company with its own trust company. The advisor referred a client to a different trust company, and on the back of that, they debarred her. She had in writing from their in-house trust company that they didn't take estates under a certain size, and this one was below that size. So what was she meant to do? Tell the client, bugger off, right? And they debarred her for that. They debarred her once she left. They were very happy to keep her there while she was still there, but as soon as they left, then here we go, petty debarment for you. We see threats all the time. We frequently see people being threatened around stuff, and a lot of people are genuinely afraid of the management of their businesses. And again, I go, how are those people possibly doing great work for you today when they're terrified of you? I mean, for goodness sake, we definitely see crappy letters. I say I haven't seen the one about a physical, real one about the gambling thing. I was chatting to an advisor, literally joined us a couple of days ago. the old FSP has said to her in writing, we will not pay any commission that comes in to you post you leaving. However, we will gladly send you any clawbacks that come along. And she wanted to know, is that normal? I said, and because they sent her a whole thing about legally, you're no longer a rep on the license, so there's no basis to pay you commission. And that's right, that's correct. There is no basis to pay commission. But what a lot of businesses would do is you would offset debits and credits and you would pay it across as a referral fee, right? A lot of people would do that. It comes down to, I said to her, legally they're right. It comes down to how do you choose to run your business? Are you lacquer people or not? I've had one advisor, he just said to me, I'm so sick and tired of being treated as a unit of production. Like, I just want to be treated as a person. I was like, oh man, that's not lacquer. We've had people where the old FSP refused to take them off the license, just to mess, and you've got 14 days in terms of phase to do it, and eventually we have to go to the FSCA and say, can you please instruct these people to do what phase requires them to? They just try to be as difficult as possible. So it really does happen a lot. There are a lot of advisors who haven't read their contracts, and that's their responsibility, right? You should read your own contract. However, if you're going to put in a really nasty condition in there, right, like a very onerous restraint of trade, I think it's fair to point that out to somebody, right? I think it's reasonable that you should be saying, listen, just so that you're aware, right, you are not going to be able to advise your wife going forward if you leave here, right? She's going to have to go and find another advisor, right? That might be a material term that you want to point out, and people don't, that they sure as hell don't do it. So yeah, I think it's more common that people advisors get treated really poorly, I think.
And it's sad. It's I can also say lots about that, but let's for time's sake, I'm not going to at this point. But it's real, and I'm just sitting here thinking, Guy, that probably these people also moan about the same things when they appoint people, that they have to sit with the same issues, kind of thing, which is the weird thing. Yeah. Zeyn, I want to come back to you just quickly. And how do you measure success in the business or performance, when it comes to advisors? Because, I mean, as Guy just alluded, you don't want to feel like a unit of production. So how do you measure whether this advisor experience is having an impact on the advisor and the business and so on?
Thanks, Francois. So I think for starters, for matters like compliance, we have minimum standards, and obviously we simply won't accept one or two advisors threatening the livelihoods of hundreds of others, right? So in terms of production or commission or income, we're an entrepreneurial driven model, which means that each advisor determines their own income levels. In terms of recognition, we have the Extra Mile Club. I'm going to say that slowly, Extra Mile Club, not to be confused with the Mile High Club. Francois, that would be a whole different podcast. So the Extra Mile Club is as far as we know, is the only program that measures, that does not measure production, but rather looks at the quality of advice, the practice management principles that you've embedded in your practice, and your adherence to your compliance process. This year at our conference was the first year that we handed out certificates at our conference to all our Extra Mile Club winners. And it was awesome to see people post them on their LinkedIn and other social media platforms. So that's the only recognition program we have is the Extra Mile Club, and it does not measure production.
Sorry for that. Fantastic. So then lastly, maybe Guy, in closing as well, when you did your client experience keynote, at Ascend, you spoke about getting feedback, and even in the beginning when we started, you were talking about that you've got to ask your client, right? So how do you get feedback from your advisors in order to figure out what should be in your advisor experience and what's working and what's not working?
Okay, so we ask them, right? I mean, it's as simple as that. So we run a small number of very deliberate surveys with people. We understand that people don't particularly like filling in surveys, but if you do something with the information that comes to you, it's incredibly useful. And so we question around sort of what we offer. We ask very open-ended questions deliberately, like, what do you love most about this? What do you hate most about this? What's the one thing we should add or take away, or whatever it is, right? And we get great feedback around that. We at our conference, which Zeyn mentioned. I mean, we tested that, and this is important. So this is an example of what you do with it, right? We ask questions like, what is the thing you like least? And so we try to really encourage mingling and people to talk to each other. So we don't want to sort of sit down dinner where you sit and talk to two people the whole night, right? So, but there are people who said that they really wanted like a full sit down meal, right? So that wasn't intuitive to me, but if that's what they want, next year they're going to get a full sit down meal, right? We can change that. If that's the thing that's ruining the experience for some people because they don't like sort of finger food type thing, which that works for me, but I'm just me, right? And it's so you ask people, you ask them what it is they like, you ask them what do they want, and in many cases, what you find then is actually it's damn easy to do that. And how cool is it, right? When you ask your client about something, they tell you they want something different, and then you deliver it. Just think of it from your own perspective. The business actually listened to you. Right? The worst thing you can do is ask for feedback and then do nothing with it. And even it doesn't mean you have to adopt every idea. In some cases, it's going back to say, listen, we hear you, we thought about it, and we're not going to do it for these reasons, right? But so feedback, it's really important. And I'm now the guy, because I do these surveys and use the information. I'm the person who fills in all the surveys that come from other people. Hopefully they use them as enthusiastically as we do. Yeah, that's it.
I just wanted to say you are literally the guy. There's no way getting away from that. Guy and Zeyn, thank you very much. I think this is only a starting conversation, right? I think this is something that you can go really a lot deeper. I think what we tried to do today is to bring attention to the fact that if you're running an FSP and you're running a business, have you thought about the advisor experience? Have you thought about that? And also obviously to bring, so this is what Fairbairn Consult is doing. So if you're not happy where you are, then obviously here's an option for you to consider. I'm going to say that out loudly. That was not part of the things we discussed, but I think it's important. Whenever, and I have the real fortunate position to talk to a lot of people when they come to this point to say, look, now I need to move, or I need to change, or whatever the case may be. And the first thing I always tell them is like, look at the people. Who's running that business? Who are the people you're going to be engaging with? Forget about the value proposition. Forget about all of the other amazing stuff and the technology and the leads and all that stuff that's being promised. Look at the people and see whether those are people that you can get along with and you can do things with. That's step number one. If that answer is yes, you can worry about all the other stuff. And I get the sense, Guy, that you are lack of people, like as you said, and that's important. There's not many of these around, to be honest. You don't see it as a cold-blooded business. That's the sense I'm getting. I'm getting the sense that this is about the people. It's about your advisors, and it's about their clients. So from my side, thank you very much for an insightful conversation. I really enjoyed it. And then Zeyn, also thank you very much for sharing a little bit, opening the veil and just showing us what's happening, on the other side. I really appreciate that. And with that, thank you very much for joining us today.
Awesome. Thanks, Francois. Thanks for the kind words. Really appreciate that. Lekker.
Pleasure. Thanks, man. So next week, my guest is Errol Meyer. Errol recently wrote a new book, and which he launched. I'm going to talk to him about where he is now, what he's going to do, and then also obviously a lot about the book. It's all about business financial planning. So looking forward, or planning for your business. Really looking forward to that, and some good insights. Until then, stay safe, be blessed and prosper, and thank you very much for being here, and remember to continue to raise the bar. Love you lots. Bye-bye.
All right, folks, that's a wrap for this episode of Propulsion. I hope you got as much out of this as I did. Remember to tune in every Friday at 8 a.m. South African time for our live show called Propulsion Live. You can find it at www.propulsion.co.za/live. And trust me, you don't want to miss it. If you enjoyed this episode of the podcast, hit that subscribe button or the follow button and share it with your friends, colleagues, and anyone else who you think would get something out of it. Thanks for tuning in, and I'll catch you in the next one.